Trigger warning, this episode contains discussions around self-harm and suicide.
Welcome to the Mental Health and You podcast. This podcast brings you information and advice from across the Norfolk and Suffolk NHS Foundation Trust, with a range of teams, services and those who use them sharing their experiences and wisdom with us every fortnight.
Welcome to our Mental Health and You podcast. This edition is focused on the menopause, and we're really happy to be joined by Wendy and Simona, who have both got shared experiences of beginning their menopause experience early. So we're really happy that you've come along and you're brave enough to share your experiences with us. So Wendy, would you mind running through how you've experienced things?
So I suppose I'll start by saying my age now. So I'm now 42, and I think probably my experience started a couple of years ago, sort of when I turned 40. I've had previous episodes of depression and started to feel like that was something that might be occurring again. My mood was incredibly low, didn't feel like myself, but unusually for me, getting incredibly anxious about things, which is not my previous experience. So when I went to my GP, they actually put me on a different SSRI to what I was usually taking. And I took them for a year out of their, expertise. They said, year minimum to sort of take them for, but nothing was really changing. I wasn't feeling any different. My husband started to notice that I was raging, is probably the only way I can describe it. I've actually got a coil, which I've had previously for birth control. So I didn't have periods. So I didn't have any experience of my periods changing or any PMT symptoms, but I was just getting so angry and so quickly. And I've got a small child. She's 7 now, so she would have been 5. And I just had no patience with her, no patience with him. And I would be screaming at the most ridiculous things, and immediately I would react and know that was way over and above what was needed for the situation. So I sort of stuck with it for a while, started getting the hot flushes then too overnight, and didn't even consider for a moment that it was anything related to menopause. But I've got a really supportive team that I work with here, and a couple of those ladies are older than me but going through menopause, and one of them just said to me, have you ever thought about it? So I was like, no, I haven't, but maybe I should. And at that point went to my GP and they did blood tests. And although I know blood tests are highly unreliable and they don't go on blood tests more these days. It's more about symptoms. And I don't know what it was. I think it's follicle something receptor that shows the level was actually coming back lower than somebody who's gone through the menopause. So my levels of blood were all over the show. So they said that alongside the symptoms, and the more you think about menopause symptoms and have a look at them, the more boxes I was ticking. Brain fog. I mean, I'm quite a together person normally. My husband's always taking the mickey out of my memory, being so fantastic, but that was just going. There was so many things that were happening that were just, I wasn't feeling myself. I felt like an alien in my own body, which I'm sure Simona can relate to, as a lot of women can. So I started HRT, and I went on that last October. So I've been on that for a year, not really doing what it needs to do for me. I suppose it depends how much detail you want at this point, but because of the breast cancer risk in my family, they wanted to refer me to the specialist. I've literally just been, 14 months later, been to see the specialist about the breast cancer risk and HRT in general. And she has now said to me that we're going to change my form of HRT from transdermal, which was seen as the safest form, to tablet form, because she thinks that for whatever reason my uptake of transdermal estrogen is not good enough for my symptom management. So we're sort of at this impasse process at the moment of me sort of swapping over to the different HRT with the view to starting testosterone as well.
Do you feel like you've been really lucky with your GP? Because we've heard lots of people's stories that they've really struggled to get through to their GP, the feelings that they've got and the problems, and they're not thinking about menopause. They're just SSRIs are antidepressants, aren't they?
Yeah.
So they're just happy to give those out and not think about what might be causing the problems in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm quite lucky with my GP in that I always get to see them face to face. I've never had a problem, and I've got a particularly lovely GP who is a man actually, but he's absolutely lovely. But also, I think because of my professional background in healthcare, my approach to them is different. So I will very much go to a GP with sort of prescriptive, this is what I want to do. And I think there's a lot of women out there who don't feel confident enough to do that. And I think, it's your care, it's your body, it's your health. And actually, I think if more women are able to go to their GP and say, I don't want the SSRI, I want to start HRT, I think more women would perhaps get what they need. I think sometimes, it's that confidence with healthcare professionals. But yeah, I mean, it does depend on your GP surgery, definitely. I think I'm very, very lucky with mine. It's a particularly good one.
I think as well, it's something that hasn't been discussed and talked about until sort of very recently. So people don't know who to talk to. They don't want to talk to their colleagues about it. They worry that it'll affect their job. I mean, you've obviously had some issues with tiredness and things like that.
Yeah.
How have you managed to work that into your daily life?
It's been really, really hard. I mean, I have been I didn't know what exhaustion was. I mean, I've been a mother, I've had a child, I know what that feels like to be tired, but this was just on another level, just the absolute mental, because I think it's because as well, you're not sleeping, you're not sleeping well at all. My hips have been incredibly problematic, so I've not slept well for a long, long time, and you've got that broken sleep on top of the mental exhaustion it takes to sometimes just put two words together. And if you're in a job, as I am, where you have to, be on the ball, and you've got young, vulnerable people in your care, and you've got to really think about what you're doing and saying to them, it's that mental exhaustion that comes with it as well. And I am incredibly lucky that the team that I have around me, some of them I consider, to be quite good friends, are really, really supportive. And I think you can't put enough emphasis on how important that is. And by opening up these conversations with your workplace, so important. My clinical supervisor is going through menopause. My management supervisor is going through menopause. So I have, the good fortune to have those people who are supporting me whilst being at work and allowing me to make those reasonable adjustments if I need to, including, as we were just discussing before we did this, Gay, is to change my hours around slightly. So I've got, a couple of days off a month that I can just, not have those pressures.
And Simona, you were saying that, you work 3 days a week and you're finding that is quite hard work. What's your story been?
Well, I don't know where to start. To be honest, I started losing my monthly cycle from the age of 44. I am 47 years old now, and I didn't realize I was going through changes. At first, I thought, am I being pregnant? That was my first thought when I wasn't getting my regular monthly cycle.
But that was a shock.
And I was praying, please, no, I'm 44. I can't look after and have another baby. That's physically, emotionally, and psychologically impossible for myself and my husband. And then my husband pointed it out. Perhaps he's very polite when it comes to a female's descriptions of ways to say. And he pointed it out first. He said, I think you are going through the changes. And that's when the penny dropped. That's when I realized why I don't recognize myself anymore when I looked in the mirror, because I it's not me. Like you says Wendy, you feel like an alien, like someone else in your body, especially in the morning. They I've got a child who's Sebi, who's 11 years old now, and my husband is 9 years old older than myself, so with the other way of age gap than you, Gay, and your husband. So my husband was always some sort of support to me, and the more experienced person in our family. But he realized that the other reason why I'm probably going through changes because I was very angry in the morning with my son and with him. I had literally zero tolerance. I am not a morning person, but being brutally angry for no reason, that was just beyond me, and it was just ringing those alarm bells everywhere I looked. Then the hot flashes started while I was sleeping. I described to you, Gay and Wendy, that it was strange because my lower part of my body was only getting hot, not the upper. So I thought, have I put a weight on? Is that why I'm getting hot flashes while asleep? Are my legs getting kind of bigger? You get so many different thoughts running through your head. Tiredness, broken sleep, itchy face, night sweats, suicidal thoughts, dry eyes, being constantly tired because I work 3 days a week, and my tasks are in front of computer, dealing with people's emails, payments, and so on. So having a dry eyes makes you feel more tired, and then realizing, am I even unable to work 3 days a week? Then yes, then I started using eye drops, and now, like I explained to you and Gay and Wendy, that I saw or I spoke to a doctor a month ago, and now I'm on 2 different type of hormones, and I feel much better after using it for a month. I feel I can do a lot more during the day. I can walk the dog, I can exercise, I can be a happy person around my little family. I can, yes, I can be myself a lot more. And that's just after a month of using replacement hormones, which is amazing. I don't get broken sleep. I sleep right through. So that's basically what my body needed. But yeah, now I have no monthly cycle at all. And in a way of a sexual interest, I'm not quite there. So yeah, overall, going through a menopause from any age, I think what is the hardest part is to actually realize that you are going through the changes, and you do something about it, and you talk about it with everyone you can, so you can then realize it is, and I need to do something about it. I need to either ask GP for replacement hormones, or I don't know, change your diet. I'm not sure, but definitely communicate, and definitely look after your body. Think why you're going through the changes, and yeah, talk and talk and talk and communicate.
Yeah, thanks,
Absolutely.
Simona. I think that's the real big thing. And I don't know um, what you guys think, but I think since we've been having these conversations, it's been so helpful because it's really kind of, from a personal point of view, for me, it's kind of made me think, it's not just me, and actually, like, I recognize so many things that people are experiencing in myself. Like you both mentioned that rage and that anger.
Yeah.
I completely relate with that. I've got two old children. So like my oldest is 25, and I've got a 21-year-old. And then for some reason I did it again, and I've got an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I feel like their experience of me as a parent is like rubbish compared to the experience that I gave the other two, because especially over the past couple of, I'm 46 now, and I kind of think, looking back, especially speaking to you guys, this has probably been going on for since I had Henry, really. But yeah, it's so angry. Like my patience is really bad, and it's it is that thing where you just think, this is not my personality, this is not who I am. So I don't know, is there anything, you'd say, any way you dealt with that kind of anger, or I don't know, is there anything you'd say about it? Is it something that goes away?
So when I first started taking the estrogen originally, and I had the patches to start with, and then switched over to the gel because the patches used to irritate, that rage did subside for a while. But then it was almost like it was that initial estrogen sort of lowered my symptoms. But then, because for whatever reason my tolerance built up, or I wasn't absorbing it properly, that then has started to creep back in. And even, sort of current day, really experiencing problems at home. But my daughter is 7, so she is, at that age where the sass is starting to come through, and she doesn't really do as she's told when I ask her, even if it's 15 times. But my husband is so good. So he sort of explains to her, and it's difficult what language to put it into for a 7-year-old, really, for her to understand. But he sort of says, mummy doesn't sleep very well, so let's just let mummy be grumpy in the mornings, and let's not poke the bear. So if you just do as you're told, then everything will be all right. So he's quite good at like taking over and recognizing where that rage is coming from, even though it's completely, over the scale of what's appropriate for the situation. And occasionally he gets it, and although he'll take umbrage at the time, he will reflect on it and realize that that's, you just can't help it. That's the thing, I think, to sort of reassure yourself with. It's not anything that you can necessarily do to change it, but it's about, for me, it's very much about the repair of the situation afterwards. But I've started to sort of count to 10.
Yeah, me too.
I do that, but I do that in front of my daughter. So she'll wind me up, and I will just start counting, and she'll go, "I know what you're doing, mummy." I'll say, "Yeah, you know why I'm doing it, don't you?" And she's, "Yeah, mummy." So she'll let me go through that process. So sometimes just, taking like that mental note of, yeah, okay, let's reset and start again. But it's so difficult.
It is, yeah. I have with them, I'm on my own with my two, so they haven't got that, unfortunately for them, they haven't got that sort of buffer. But what I have, my daughter who's 8, so I know, that kind of whole attitude thing is
Yeah.
kicking in. Um, she'll pull me up sometimes and just say, like, Mum, that is not how you should be speaking to an 8-year-old. Because I think she
Yeah.
said something the other day, like, I don't know, I'll do it in a minute. And I think I said something like, oh, whatever. She was like, Mum, you shouldn't be saying whatever to an 8-year-old. That's terrible. And I thought, actually, no, I really shouldn't. So she sort of pulled me up, and then I'm able to say to her, like, I'm really sorry, Mabel. That was
Yeah.
out of order. And it
Yeah.
should be. It's like role reversal. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But it's helpful. It is helpful because it makes you realise, that I should apologise, and I shouldn't be speaking to them like that. So
Yeah, you don't want to
yeah,
look back on the years when they're young and think, oh my God, I was a terrible mother.
yeah,
Which
yeah,
is,
No,
and
and
it's
that's
so
what you feel like.
yeah,
yeah,
and it's so
yeah.
important that if you have got a partner, that a husband, that they understand. But sometimes it doesn't make it any easier, in as much as you know that you shouldn't be feeling like this and behaving like that. But you can't stop yourself. I mean, I think 10 years ago, I think I was probably perimenopausal at the time, and I didn't realise. So was drinking quite a lot, and nearly divorced my husband, and my the kids suffered when they were younger. But now that's worked in his favour because he's now an expert. So he's talking, because he's 9 years younger than me. So he's talking to his mates and going, right, lads, what do you know about the perimenopause then? And they're going, huh? So it's, he's trying to help them, but even they're not that keen on knowing any more about it. I think it still terrifies a lot of men particularly. And I think because the women don't really understand what's happening, it's very difficult to explain just how you feel about it, and the fact that you're worried because your kids are going out and driving or they might not come back, those dark thoughts which Simona touched on earlier. I think in the past you've said, haven't you, about that, well, what would happen if I just drove into this tree? Those kind of feelings.
I've had that
suicidal
exact
feelings.
same.
It's quite
basically,
shocking that you feel like that, but you just don't know what to do with that. I mean, you had quite a lot of that, didn't you? You said about that before, Simona.
It's really difficult because I think each woman goes through different symptoms, and that's why when we see a GP or speak to a GP, they can't 100% guarantee you are going through the changes, because each woman goes through a different symptoms. I think I started being very angry, and when I was sleeping, I was getting a really horrible dreams, like a nightmares, and feeling my life isn't nice anymore. So why do I want to live? And when I was driving back from school drop off, I thought, what about if I just swirl to the left? How will I get injured, or what sort of injuries will I get? Or I've got 2 balconies because my husband is a builder and he built our house, and we've got 2 balconies on the higher floor. And I just, sometimes I'm upstairs and I'm either at home on my own, or Sebi's downstairs on his PlayStations, and I think again, if I jump from the balcony, would I die, or would I just break my leg? I shouldn't have thoughts like that. I have a child downstairs. I've got a big responsibility in my life.
But they're
So
not rational, are they? Your mind is working to even to be in a position with a happy life that you think like that. It's not rational, but it still sits in your head sometimes. And it's really sad that so many people they will take it further. And I think the research is in really early days about the links between suicide and perimenopause. But I think it's one of these things that people will look at more.
totally, because I think menopause affects your brain quite a lot, hence why we have brain fog, losing memories, suicidal thoughts, because menopause, the lack of the hormones when we get older definitely affects the brain, hence why we feel angry, we feel suicidal, we just not what we used to be.
And has anybody put anything stupid? So I've put milk in my washing machine instead of fabric softener.
That'd be nice.
Who does that? It's just those silly little things that walking into a room and having no recollection why you went in.
I've done that. And walking into door frames, so spatial awareness has gone out the window.
God. Well, mine was awful before, Gay, so I'm covered in bruises where I just walk into everything.
But
it's those moments of just feeling like before I sort of entered the NHS at the sort of the mental health end, I was a carer for the elderly, and I had a gentleman I looked after, and he was going into dementia, but he was having moments of lucidity, and it was that you get that feeling of knowing what you're doing is completely off the scale of any kind of sanity, but not knowing why you're doing it. And it's like that, those moments of knowing that you're feeling like you're losing your mind, and it's really awful.
I've had people talk to me as well in social occasions, because we've obviously got the menopause advocates at work, of which I'm one of, and Simona is as well, but that spills out into my outside of work life. So anyone starts talking about the menopause and I'm like, oh, what would you like to know? But I've had people talk to me and they've said they thought they had early onset dementia because their minds were just going blank all the time. And it's having the GP that you can talk to about that, saying, no, you're not going mad, this is what's happening and this is how we can help. But do you think there's still the whole link, the supposed link with breast cancer that was in the papers in the 80s? Do you think it's that puts people off still?
I think it absolutely does. I mean, from my own personal experience, my mum had breast cancer. Her sister also had breast cancer, but my mum's was an estrogen breast cancer. So they absolutely told her that her cause of that was HRT. And she was really worried when I was, saying I'm going to go on HRT. She was like, well, what about the risk, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, but mum, I cannot live like this. I would rather take that risk on board at this point in time and try and make a difference to my quality of life, because I feel so dreadful. But actually, when I visited the specialist recently, who I have to say was lovely, but she went through the process of showing me, when you're on HRT, your increased risk, even, knowing that I've got a bit of an increased family history. She then sort of said to me, now I'm not judging you, but with a BMI of over 30, you drink and you vape. So she said, all those things combined increase your risk of breast cancer so much more than you taking HRT. So I did feel a bit judged, not going to lie.
It wasn't great to be told that, but actually it was sort of, like you'd say, a backhanded compliment. It wasn't, but actually to know that gives you a way to judge it, whether you're going to take that risk or not.
Absolutely. I mean, and the risk, is no more greater for me being on HRT than it is, somebody else walking down the road who isn't going through menopause but drinks, vapes and smokes. So, it's one of those things that just hearing it from a specialist put my mind at rest. But I think it does put some women off, and just the artificialness of it sometimes, I think, puts women off.
And perhaps the wait for an appointment as well. I mean, how long did you have to wait?
Oh my God. So I waited for 14 months.
Yeah. So I went on the waiting list for testosterone because it's not licensed in the UK. Yes. And I had that appointment a couple of months ago. One of the things that was suggested because of the fatigue was to take progesterone in the evening. So she said, try that for a while and then we'll check your levels, and so I've got an appointment. But that huge long wait, I mean, there is the opportunity to go privately while you're waiting, but it seems, it seems bad that you have to wait and pay for that when you're paying for prescriptions anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think there's a way, how would we be able to help getting these appointments quicker? Is there anything that you can think of that would sort of help with that?
I don't necessarily think there is. I think it is just demand on the service and their capacity to run the clinics. There's, I mean, I went to my appointment and it was on a Sunday morning. So it's not like that they're not doing everything they can, I think, in order for that to happen a bit quicker for women. But it is, the testosterone question, isn't it? Is this, a lot of people have talked to me about testosterone and do you need it, don't you need it? And the consultant I saw said, for libido, absolutely, we'll give it a go, because I have absolutely no interest whatsoever in sex at all. From, I mean, and never necessarily have been one of those people that has to have every day or every week or every month and, has that routine. But even taking it to a bit of an adult 18 plus level, from a personal point of view of self-pleasuring, even that, no interest whatsoever, none at all.
Have you found the same, Simona, do you think? Has that been a similar sort of story for you?
I think when I was having some sort of interaction with my husband, it was painful. And I'm like, oh, that's not right. That's not, no, sorry, we can't carry on now, please. And then I spoke to a doctor, and we went to see a gynecologist or nurse, and they did the test, and they said, yeah, you need a Vagisil, and you definitely came the right time. And that was about 2.5 years ago. And that definitely improved. But it's definitely different when you are. I'm not 35 anymore. I'm not 25 anymore. It's the libido. I think that's what you call here. It's gone pretty much. There's probably 2% left from wanting it. But yeah, it's it may change. I don't
It's a
don't
bit of a
know.
cruel trick of nature, isn't it? Your children leave home and you've got the house
Yeah.
to yourself, and then
Yeah.
boom, you get the menopause. So yeah.
I think that's particularly difficult for the men in our lives as well, because, you know, again, I can't praise Paul enough. He's amazing, but there's only so much rejection a man can take before he just gives up trying. And it's like, well, please keep trying, because there might be one day when I really do want to, have sex with you. And it's about still having that closeness, still having that intimacy that isn't necessarily just about sex. I think that's really, really important, and not giving ourselves a hard time about it. The one thing that I find really difficult is, we'll use the words vaginal dryness. Okay, you were saying that's the most said word on Teams these days, but it is an issue. And yes, there are things that you can use to combat that, but it's a bit of a mood killer sometimes, isn't it? You just sort of like, hang on a minute, just like, wait there, I'm just going to go to the drawer and get what I need. It's a bit of a mood killer, isn't it?
I'm happy to just cuddle skin to skin,
yes,
and go into your dreamland.
Yeah, lovely.
Which is great if you can sleep.
Romantic.
Yeah. So Wendy, you were talking about you've had trouble sleeping, but one of the things you've tried is CBD.
Yeah, that's quite a recent addition, actually, because I was having some conversations and very recently, and tried those over the last couple of nights. And
so that was the gummies, wasn't it?
The gummies. Yeah. I got them off Amazon, but yeah, it was the best I've slept in years. Wow, really. And I don't know how much of that at this point is placebo, because you never do know, do you? But I'll take it. Whether it was placebo or not, I'll take it.
I've got a question for you, Wendy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you go outside? How many hours do you spend outside in the fresh air, because you work full time?
Not a great deal. In fact, most of the fresh air I get is going from the kitchen outside to have a vape in the evening, because I'm not allowed to do it inside. Because
that's not very fresh, though, is it?
No, it's not very fresh. No. So very little.
I would probably recommend more fresh air. Go outside, even if you just go for, I don't know, walk for an hour or anything. Being outside, fresh air, or maybe go on the beach if you live maybe not far from Cromer or somewhere near the beach. Go every weekend. You'll sleep like a log. Fresh air.
We do get, I suppose weekends
air.
we do get a bit more fresh air as a family. We try and get out and about somewhere for a walk or something. But
it's really difficult though when the nights are the days are so short now. Yeah. Because I think one of the other things that contributes to tiredness is the lack of vitamin D, which of course a lot of people have this time of year. So that's quite a good supplement to take, as well as magnesium is supposed to help with the aches and pains and help you sleep. So there's other things that you can try as well. So it's worth sort of having a little bit of a Google on how those affect you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
there are
actually taking the
definitely.
magnesium. And I've got a little Dosset box now because I'm on that many supplements. I put them in a little organizer because I'm taking the magnesium, the omega-3, vitamin B and D, and the ashwagandha root I'm taking now as well. So, I mean, I have slept better this week, and actually I've been taking those supplements now for just over a month. So it may be that everything's coming together, and it's a bit difficult sometimes, isn't it, when people are saying, try this, try this, try this. And you do, but if you do it all at once, you're not really quite sure which one's the one that's working, but something's working. I definitely have slept better the last couple of nights.
And one
Do you
thing I've
think?
noticed, go on,
Oh,
sorry,
sorry.
Jodie.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I think because now everyone's sort of working longer and we've got kids and we're so busy, I think, do you think it kind of, you just accept for a long period of time, you just think, I'm tired because I'm working, looking after kids, doing everything. It's like you don't really have free time. You're just constantly doing stuff. So you just kind of think, this is my life. This is just, I just feel like this because I'm, stressed and tired. And it kind of delays you finding out, what it actually is. So it's sort of, it's disguised really as everyday life.
Yeah.
But actually it doesn't need to be as difficult as you sort of accept. You just accept for a long period of time, I think,
Yeah,
that's your life.
absolutely.
And you
Yeah.
do feel just tired all the time and stuff. But,
Yeah.
you know, once you look into it and you do start talking to other people, you realise there's a bit of a common theme going.
And it's not
Totally,
helped
because
by they get helped by the craving for carbs, biscuits, toast,
Mm,
cakes, all of that.
mm,
That's sometimes all you fancy eating, and then that makes you worse because it makes you feel more sluggish.
yeah.
You get the belly that you can't get rid of, all of those kind of things, which are helped by HRT, hopefully.
We definitely need to set up some sort of like menopause bingo sheet, I think, because I think we see which ones, see if we can get a full house.
I just want to say I am so pleased that we had the training with the lovely Hayley, the pro dancer. She said my Blackpool is my second home. So I have to say she was amazing. And if it wasn't for the training, I would not call GP and I would not get my hormone replacement, and I would still feel physically, emotionally, and psychologically absolutely drained and
Mm,
unbearable. So I
mm.
just want to say big thank you to Jodie and to everyone who's been involved. You, Gay, all the support. It's been incredible.
And I think
I
that's the point of it, to get these conversations going. And I think it's something that everybody should be doing in all organizations, and maybe without terrifying teenagers, get the conversation going in schools as well. You have it in
Totally.
PHSE,
That's the
whatever
one.
those lessons are,
Yeah.
sex education when we were at school.
Yeah.
Physical
But actually,
development,
trying to
PD.
explain then what's going to happen in the future, just to make them aware of that they're not going mad, and it's a natural part of life, but you don't have to put up with it.
Mm,
Because can you imagine, Gay, how many teachers, especially female teachers, there are in our children's schools who goes through the same symptoms like I have been, Wendy, you, Jodie. I keep telling my son, Sebi, when you go to school and if you have a female teacher in your class, be aware she might be going through the same symptoms like your mommy has been. So please be patient and be nice, because I think there are huge organizations, schools and the government, like we are, NHS, NSFT. I think they have to probably have some sort of trainings and meetings to communicate about it and to be aware of it. That can happen to any woman at any age.
mm.
And that's what we need to spread the word about, isn't it? So I think we'll finish it there. Jodie, do you want to wrap up a little bit and just,
Yeah, I was just going to say, we've only really kind of scratched the surface here, and this whole program started 6 months ago. And it's just what's been so brilliant is that people obviously feel so comfortable. We've created a real kind of space where people are happy to share their experiences, and support each other. And I think that's like the most important thing. Going back from getting feedback from people when we started, just saying they didn't have any support while they were at work, they didn't have anyone to talk to. And I just think in such a short space of time, just having conversations like this, and it's always so sort of informal and just friendly, it's just, it's great. So yeah, thank you so much, because it's a brave, and I think it's a big thing to, to share your story and your experiences. It's very personal and very emotional, so it's massively appreciated by everybody. Thank you.
Thank you both. It's been really good.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to make sure you don't miss a future episode. Let us know what you thought of this episode by reaching out on social media. If you haven't already, listen back to previous episodes to hear some of the best mental health advice for you.